Hello, my name is Joseph Carlson, and this is episode 259 of Gaming with Grief. And we're just calling this episode What's Up, Sony? What's Up, Sony? Because, like I talked about with you, Avin, last time we did the What's Up, Microsoft, because I was reading all these weird things about Microsoft, and I figured we should just do it with the other people, Sony and Nintendo. And,
Sure.
Everybody's taking a different approach to, obviously, the market's changing. You and I talk about layoffs and stuff, all the depressing stuff on Gaming with Grief. But,
Right.
Microsoft's really pushing, like we talked about last episode when we talked about Microsoft, they're really pushing like services like Game Pass and things like that. There's going to be an app there is an app on the Samsung TVs that came out after 2024, I think. So you can download Game Pass, pair your controller to your TV and just play. And, they have tiers of Game Pass. They have PC Game Pass. And, they're putting more of their games on other consoles. They're putting Sea of Thieves on Sony, on PlayStations. And they're putting Hi-Fi Rush, which is like a little independent rhythm-based game. They're putting that on Sony platforms as well. And they're putting Pentiment, they're trying new things. In fact, I think it was reported that Microsoft actually has like 3 of the best-selling games on Sony's platform or so because of their games going over to Sony. So that's just...
No, that's pretty cool.
I can't even imagine. Well, I actually want to buy one of those. Like, I can play them on Microsoft, but I want to buy one of them on Sony to see if the Microsoft Studio logo comes up before on a Sony device, which would just blow my it would, because it's developed by them, but I would just take a moment of silence and be like, this is the world we live in, like it's but what we were
it's like when Microsoft was like anti-Linux, and now you have a Linux terminal right inside Windows.
And there's no problem, you just download it. Well, the thing with
Microsoft Office on Mac is reviewed as being better on a Mac than on Windows.
I've heard that too.
What is that?
I've heard that too. I've heard a lot of I know some people that were architects, and they said all the CAD stuff, if you load the Windows version, like boot it in the boot camp and then load it into a Mac, it runs smoother. And I was like, that's insane. Anyway, when it comes to Sony,
what a time to live.
What a time. It doesn't matter, man, science. But what I want to talk about Sony is they're also trying new things, and I sent you some articles that we were going to go over. But what I think is interesting about Sony is, broadly speaking for me, is that when they originally started releasing their first-party games to PC, it was like a boutique thing. Like, oh, we're playing God of War on PC, And they bought a company called Nixxes, which helped with PC ports. And Nixxes, they're not watching this. We have 20 subscribers, whatever. Nixxes has really been killing it, though, because they've, there's obviously some ports haven't worked out as well. I know The Last of Us had problems. I think they've fixed that. But they've been kind of accelerating the speed at which they do ports. And their president said as much, hey, we see this as another area of revenue. And we understand people want these faster. They want these games. They want to play these things more. So we're working more aggressively to get these things on PC faster. And apparently, I don't know if it was in one of the articles I sent you, but the old CEO of Sony, Jim Ryan, who is retired recently, I think within a month ago, he said that there was an article come out that said some of these things to get ported to PC only cost about $40 million. They just need him to sign on the dotted line so they can approve it, right? And so they have a new president now, and so I think he's really going, do it. Like, we have all these IP. We do Spider-Man. Like, we have both God of Wars. I don't know if Ragnarok's hit yet, but we did Ghost of Tsushima. That was a big hit on our consoles. Apparently, it has 4K. It was beautiful when I played on PS4. I can't imagine what it looks like on new machines with brand new TVs. And I think that's where Sony is leaning into. They're not going to put stuff on other consoles, but they're going to say, how do we get this to more people? If you're not going to buy a PlayStation, maybe you'll download our game on Steam, which we can talk about later with Helldivers. But maybe that is just another source of revenue. The amount of money we spend,
Right.
If it's rumored to be $30 or $40 million, that's a pittance compared to what they can make selling a $70 game on Steam, over the life of whatever,
Right.
So, and I think that's a really unique philosophy that like the other console manufacturers aren't doing, Yeah, so what did you think, like, when you read the articles and stuff like that? Were you like, wow, like, you don't really game that much, so...
I mean, there was there's a bunch of stuff in the articles actually that stood out. I mean, specifically, since let's kind of go in order of the articles that you sent me. The first one with Helldivers. Um,
What a
I'm not an incredibly active gamer, and I saw a lot of articles about Helldivers 2 when it came out. Some really positive about the game, but also a lot of negative from the community because they were uh, rightfully so, in my opinion, because of how I game, rightfully upset about uh, Sony's handling for the PC gamers. Right? Like it was
so
really exciting that there was a simultaneous launch, so you
oh
could
yeah,
play
and
a brand new launch
cross platform, so you could play together.
right at the beginning. For a game that, from everything I've heard, has actually been really well received for the game itself. All of the hate and flack has been around um, the PC users having to create a PSN network or PSN
Right.
account.
And speaking of that,
Which,
I just want to cite the article. It's from Kotaku, and it's called "Helldivers 2 Boss Says Sorry After Game Gets Review Bombed to Hell" by Ethan
right.
Gach. It was published yesterday, and they just talk about this whole thing like you just talked about. But I do, why I sent you this article, I want to see if I can find. Yeah. So the head of the studio, Pilstedt, I think is his last name, or at least his username on Twitter, X. When it got review bombed, he made a tweet that said, "Ouch," right in the review score, which I thought was a perfect way to encapsulate, like, way to hit us where it hurts. But then they even came out and said, "Hey, this isn't us. Sony is saying this is what has to happen." So, Arrowhead Studios is like, "Hey, it's don't hit us,"
Right.
Yeah.
And they talk about in the article too, like this is also part of the problem with Steam's review system is that all the people are pissed off about having to have a PSN account, which wasn't apparently originally required, but is now being required.
Yeah, it's optional.
Right. Well, it's supposedly optional, but the article said
It
that for
was.
some reason
Yeah, it
with
will.
Helldivers, it's not.
Yeah, and what really sucks is, like, a side thing. They do mention in the article that there's some countries that do not have PSN access, so you cannot create an
Right.
account. So then you're just going to lose the game. And I believe the CEO, I don't know if it was in this article or some other reporting I've heard, the CEO said, "Listen, we don't really know how that's going to work," which I think is a terrible thing. It's a terrible messaging thing to go, "Hey, people in X countries, we don't. We're working on it." It's like
Sorry.
that should have all been ironed out before, whatever. And
Bad
then
PR,
yeah.
bad user experience, right? But the point I was getting at there is like because of the way Steam's reviews work, it's aggregate, and so it doesn't show like the review of the game is good, but the frustration with the interface is bad.
Right.
So
Right.
that hurts the game studio, even though PlayStation, I was gonna say PS,
Yeah,
even though PlayStation is kind of the one who's
the bad guy.
I'm gonna ascribe as bad guy.
Yeah. The bad messenger of the. Yeah. One of the things I heard that was reporting, which the source that I heard it from does their research. The reason why some people think this is happening is because if you were to take the amount of people playing on PlayStation, it would not hit their top 20 most downloaded games. But if you aggregate in the people that are playing on Steam and bring them together with the people that are playing on PlayStation, it's the number 7th most played game. So for them to be able to have a quarterly report and go to the stockholders and say, "Look," but now they can't do that because it's not in that upper tier, that upper 10, whatever. So that's in a way, you know what I mean? Like, so they're not able to say we have this number 7 downloaded most played game on the PSN. They can't say that. They can only say, well, we have a really successful game that's also on PC, basically. So there's this talk of, and then as a side thing, this is just a small thing that I've noticed. My wife wants to play. She doesn't really have a powerful PC, and she doesn't obviously want to buy another console to play. And I said, well, listen, when I started playing on PC, I just didn't link my account and thought, great, you can buy it on PlayStation on my account. Then you could play it. Yep, there's the thumb thing. You can play it there, and then we'll just hook up with friends lists, and I know who I am. I know it's you, and I know I'm playing with me, and we'll just tell people, hey, my wife's playing, and they wouldn't even know or care. And so now that's off the table,
Right.
So unless it comes to another platform, which it might, there's rumors that it might come to Xbox. I don't know if that's true, but like it's just one of those things where I've heard other reporting that there's no cross progression. So like if I was to play Helldivers on PlayStation, I would have to start all over again. So instead of bringing your account back and forth, so a lot of people have said, why don't you give us a little bit of sugar with the medicine? Why don't you get cross progression working and going, hey, the only way this is going to work is if you link your PSN account. We're really sorry for the inconvenience. We've also worked out these countries. We can get it to work now in these countries. You just got to log into this website. Right. And now there's cross progression. So people be like, well, that sucks. But at least my stuff carries over and I don't lose everything, and I can just keep going.
There's a reason to actually have the account, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking as we're talking this through, I'm thinking, I told you privately, separately, and now publicly, right? Like for me, I wouldn't want to play Helldivers now because I don't want to make another account and then have just another place where I'm getting emails and marketing and
they have your info and there's data breaches.
Right.
Sony's been known to have their system down quite a bit.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, as you're aware, I'm a very big Civilization fan. I've played every version of Civilization since 2. So we're up to 6 now.
I get a notification every time you're playing Civ 6 on Steam. I'm like, oh, Avin's at it again. He's trying to beat X country again. Like he's,
right. Yeah. So for Access, or not for Access, but 2K, of course, wants people to have accounts too, right? Because then you can market to them and sell them stuff.
And data. There's data too.
Right.
That they can,
But in order to entice me to do it, they gave me a free leader and free game scenarios.
Yeah. Well, they, all Helldivers.
Come on, Sony.
Yeah, all Helldivers stuff is cosmetic, right? You have super bucks or super dollars. But that's all. Right. You get it from playing the game, and you can spend real money on it, but it's like you get a different color cape or your gun's gray instead of red, whatever. It's all stuff like that. It's not... They could have done that. Hey, we'll give you some super bucks or whatever, like some super Earth bucks. And it's like, it's worth it. I'll take the extra helmet or, whatever I want to buy with it. Or whatnot, you know.
Something to like you said, add some sugar, right? Sweeten the pot a little bit by giving something for creating that account, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna give me your information. Let me give you blank in exchange for that.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing I do want to talk about with Sony too is you were really fascinated by the business article.
The margins, man.
Yeah,
wow.
It's CNBC. This is called Sony plunged $10 billion after its PS5 sales cut, but a bigger issue is near decade low games margins. Now, to be clear, to give a big asterisk on this isn't just Sony. I mean, Microsoft's seen a decline in consoles. Again, maybe with their services, and people are rightfully so looking around and looking at ways they could save money. And they go, so really all I have to do is have a decent PC and I can get Game Pass and I'm good for $15 a month. Or, hey, I got a phone. It's not great, but I have okay internet. I could play on the cloud, hook into my account that way, which is another good thing that Microsoft. So, or hey, I got the Series X, the smaller digital only version, and it's $200 or $300 as opposed to $500. So you could be like,
But when we talked about Microsoft, when we were looking at the Xbox specifically, I don't remember reading into the margins and seeing that as much. I think the thing that stands out for me is they moved down their projection of unit sales from 21 million in this fiscal year, or from 25 million to 21 million. So 4 million fewer units, which, by the way, I'm still shocked they're shipping that many units in the PS5. Wow.
Yeah.
But you'd think, okay, why would they take a $10 billion hit to their stock? Sony as a whole, it's a huge company. Cameras, TVs, refrigerators, I think.
Well, I think
massive amounts of products. Then to have a big hit like that from that. The thing that stood out, and then the CNBC article actually calls out, is it's not just a reduction in number of units. Their margin has been slipping. Yeah. So they highlighted it was 12 to 13% margin for the 4 years prior to 2022. And it dropped to 9% in 2022, and it's down to under 6%. Almost
so everything's
6%
now. Shrinking like that. Yeah.
That's a massive compression of margin.
Right.
So now I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh yeah, I get why they're talking about in this article why there's big concern about the gaming sector for Sony, what's going on, because that's
go ahead.
2 or 3 years their margin has slipped to half of what it had been.
Yeah, I think too, just in general, what I've seen with games is that, like I said, everything's down on a down trajectory, and then two, I think you hear about this with Microsoft in general and the Xbox flagship, whatever, the Xbox pillar. you hear it with Sony as well. Yeah, TVs are good, movies are good, but like PlayStation, that's like the most exciting thing. So if you're looking at the most exciting thing like gaming that's bringing in all this revenue, and then they're like, we really, I mean, I hate to use the term, but we shit the bed this year, which isn't really if you inform your investors, hey, we expect this to happen. We're sorry, but like that still looks bad. So like the most exciting thing you have underperforms. It's like, ugh. Oh crap.
It's the really flashy, cool, fun thing that people really pay attention to, and it's where people know your brand from.
Right. Yeah.
And then you take a big hit, like it's hard, and I get that, but I mean, like I said, from a business perspective, the thing that really stands out to shareholders is going to be that compression in margin. Like 6% margin is low. That's barely better than a grocery store.
Yeah, I think too. Right now, Sony only has an intern CEO. I mean, he's out of the interim CEO. He's Japanese, and I think they're trying to find a worldwide, because Jim Ryan, like I said, was a CEO for a while, retired, I think last month. So I don't think their interim CEO is going to be let go, but it's definitely going to be a transition for him, and like we talked about, if they bring things to PC, that's going to be one thing where, I know when a new boss comes in, he kills projects, but I can imagine the head when he does the baton passes. This is the one thing you're not getting rid of. We're doing this initiative. You can kill whatever project, but like we have to do this to stay relevant.
It always takes a new CEO time to come in and analyze where everything is and to understand the business. I don't know where the new CEO is coming from or the interim CEO is coming from, right? Like they still got to make decisions. They still got to drive the ship. But Sony's so big, like the individual divisions kind of run themselves, I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
And so... yeah, they're probably going to maintain the same direction for at least a year while the new guy figures out, like, what am I going to do? What do I believe in? Where do I think the company's going to go?
Yeah, they got to find him too. They got to find a new person and say, okay, we put a bet on you. What are your, because that's going to be part of the interview process, right? They're going to go, where do you see this going? And whoever has the best vision, they're probably going to be like, we really like this, or whatever. Like we like where this person's head is at. What I will say, like I'm definitely like agnostic when it comes to this stuff. There is platforms I like playing certain things on, and there is reasons why I buy things on certain platforms. But I used to be like, oh yeah, Sony's cool, and it's like I think I just like franchises. Where it's like, oh man, God of War is a really cool franchise. Oh, it's on Sony. Okay, I'm gonna play it on Sony. The ones that Microsoft brought over to Sony doesn't bother me either way if I play them. I do have them on Game Pass, so there's a financial reason of like, well, technically I paid for it because I have this subscription. I might as well get the most out of my subscription there. Why go buy it on Sony? But
100%.
Also another thing that was enabled with, I didn't include, it's small, but it does matter to some people. When you played something, because I think right now Sony just uses Steam for their games, they've enabled PlayStation trophies in Steam. So when you pop a Steam trophy, you're also hooking your PSN account and getting a bronze, silver, whatever. And that doesn't matter to me. Yeah, that doesn't matter to me unless it's a very specific game where I'm like, yes, I want to platinum this. It means a lot. But for some people, that is a big deal. Like, oh, I'm playing this on Steam, but like, I want people to look at my account because, there's websites out there you can share your trophy data and they have leaderboards like everything else. And you could be like, I've heard press too say they get really excited to play a game. They play it for review. They have a little bit extra time and they're like, I'm going to platinum this. And when they activate everything, because obviously you have to hide everything if you're playing it for review, when it gets activated, some people get into a race on who's gotten the platinum first of like, I was the first, which again is not a big thing, but it matters to a specific audience. And
so there is at least some trade-off and a reason to have your account linked.
Yeah, and again, I understand why Sony's going to do this. I saw another analyst, Jeff Grubb, who's kind of an insider. He does a lot of news, and he breaks a lot of stories of like, hey, this is what I'm hearing about the Switch 2. This is what I'm hearing about this. He tweeted out after this was announced, he goes, listen, Sony, we understand you wanted to do this. It may have been optional, but don't lie to us because their official statement was it was for safety. And he said, don't lie to us. Just say you want our data. If you say, hey, we just want to be able to take your data and share it with our partners because we want to better learn about the gamer. People are like, okay, that's another reason people are like, okay, well, You're being honest. I don't like it. I don't like my data
We
being
want to be
shared.
able to tell our shareholders that we're doing well with this really good game that you guys love so that we can continue making good games that you guys love.
Yeah. Or hey, like a lot of studios, not even being I can't think of the word.
Duplicitous?
Yes, or being underhanded, they will share data with each other. And I've heard developers say, listen, we see the data coming in, how long people spend on a tutorial, how long it takes people to find an item that we hit, a collectible, and we take that all into account, and we'll share it with other studios in our stable. So it's like, listen, you can't the time to kill has to be faster in this first person shooter. You can't do this with this collectible. That's bugged. We have to fix that. It's like, it's not even them being shady. It's this, them being, and I could see Helldivers Sony going, all right, we put it on PC. We have a lot more data on PC than we do on PlayStation. We need that data because we also want to make another shooter and we want that kind of input instead of bringing
See where we're running into glitches, where we're running into user interface problems,
Yeah.
where user interface improvements on the PC version actually is something we could translate over to the console version.
Yeah,
for console players
instead of making something new, and Arrowhead is a smaller studio, I believe. So it's not like they could be like, can we just get someone from Arrowhead over here? It's like, we don't have time. Like these servers are crashing left and right. So many people like the game. Like, just take our data, just take the data, and then we'll have a meeting every month or whatever,
It's the Fry meme. Shut up and take my data.
Yeah, literally, just like, we don't have time to go over this with you. Like, we literally, Joel, the DM, is working 24 hours to kick the players' butts, and we're trying to make sure the servers don't crash. Like, and we're trying to plan future content. So you deal with it, Sony. Like, we don't want to deal with it. So, I mean, again, I think I'm more agnostic with everything. I think this is kind of the Helldivers thing is kind of a bad example. I do think they can make it better, like we talked about, maybe sweeten the pot with some free gifts or something. And maybe
I get where it's a bad look, right? Like, I read, going through that Kotaku article, you read the reviews in Steam, and like, people are upset about having to make another account, or even just irritated enough they're not going to play the game anymore, right? Like, Sony's losing out on money by making that a requirement.
Yeah.
Sweeten the pot a little bit to entice people to do it. Make it optional for people that don't want to, right? Like, I'm not, like I told you, right? I'm not making another account.
By the way, as a quick aside, I've been trying to get my Battle.net account squared out for a while, and I should share the email with you because they finally got back to me and said, here's what you need to do. It is a run-on sentence that goes on for 3 paragraphs, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do at the end of that. They go, yeah, just log in with this. Here's the questions you got right because we asked you security questions. Here's the ones you got wrong. And then what you need to do is re-log in and put this ticket in. And I'm like, what? I should just share the email with you because I read it twice and was like, I'm not trying to break into Fort Knox. I just want my account back. Like, and then,
Yeah, unfortunately, Battle.net, right? Like, Blizzard probably has a massive amount of it because there was so much bot farming in World of Warcraft.
Oh, yeah.
Like, account stealing, account hacking was like its own sub industry.
Yeah, no, I know. I got hit up several times when you're in WoW, but you get privately messaged. And listen, like, my wife and my friend Martin are like, hey, just, start anew. And I said, well, here's the deal. I could, and you've said it too. But I think some of it is there's World of Warcraft stuff tied to that. And I haven't played World of Warcraft for a while. But I thought, like, every time I log in, it's like all my old stuff's there. It's like, what if I want to go back? I don't want to start over again. That's years of stuff you're just, like, wiping away. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm putting in another ticket and waiting 3 weeks for them to get back to me so I can play everything, And then I will get a tattoo of that on my forehead or something. So that way when it, like, and I'll do it backwards in the mirror. So, like, when I look, I can log in because heaven forbid that I ever lose that account information again once I get it cleared up. I don't know. What do you think finally about all this, Avin? I mean, we're wrapping up here, but I mean,
I think of all of them, my outside personal opinion of all, when I say all of them, referring to the major console manufacturers. So Sony, Xbox, or PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo, right? Like, I think Sony's probably mishandling this more than anyone at the moment.
Yeah.
Microsoft is opening up and going cross-platform. Sony's doing it, right? Like, it's how they're going to make more money. They can make more margin in a port than they can off of a new game. it's better for the gaming industry as a whole, right? Like it provides more value to the gamer as a whole to have more options. I don't have to go buy a new console.
Yeah.
Everyone's budget's getting more tight. The newer consoles are getting more
Yeah.
expensive. Right? Like you and I were talking before, like the consoles age out way faster because PCs are moving way faster
Yeah.
anyway. So if you have
Yeah.
a PC port, like I can keep my gaming rig up to date for the same price as the console or less even,
Just
and
buying
not
it.
having to have two separate pieces of equipment. So
Yeah.
ultimately, I think Sony's got the most room to improve, and I think currently is probably doing the worst with their community.
I mean, to give Sony a little bit of flowers, well, basically any developer I've read that says that, hey, we only have to develop for a platform, they said, that speeds up development. And obviously, we
Right.
know the hardware back and forth, like the new Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 that came out, and I think Final Fantasy 16, Square Enix both developed those, and they said, man, I don't think we could have got the quality of those games. We're getting reviews in that say the quality is high. We couldn't have got that if we had to do it for Xbox. And they probably will come to PC, but it's usually a year later.
Right.
So every developer kind of has that, and Sony gets, I think, even more flowers when they do. And Nixus, again, the 20 people that are watching this, I remember Nixus from playing the best 6 out of 10 that no one liked, Marvel's Avengers. But Sony finally bought them and put them on PC ports, and they seem to be lately just kicking butt. So, shout out to companies out there that are like, yeah, I guess we'll port it to PC, and they roll their sleeves up and like look at the code and go, oh man, this is going to be rough.
I mean, I get it, right? You want to put the absolute best game out you can possibly put out there, and we talked about in the Xbox. What's up Xbox? What's up Microsoft episode, right? We talked about kind of the cost and expense of developing these
Yeah.
AAA games,
200 to 300 million
And
dollars. It's like movie money.
right? I mean, Sony spent, and from leaks, they spent 300 million for the new Spider-Man game, which was widely loved. It's a
Yeah.
fantastic game, but right, like, how do you make your margin back on that? Right,
Yeah.
you're charging $70 a game, and you got to sell how many millions of copies to make your money back, let alone actually turn a profit?
Yeah, because there's an accountant somewhere saying,
Yeah.
okay, so here we spent $300 million, and I'm terrible at math, but they're like, it's $70 because it's coming out, and it's Spider-Man, it's going to sell a lot of copies. We have to sell, what, 5 million copies, or, whatever it is, we have to sell, at $70. Here's the margin, the printing, the marketing, all that. Here's how many copies we have to sell to get to just 300 million to break even,
Well, it's not even going to break even. It's a little more than 4.25 mil, right? But that $70 also does, like you said, include the cost of packaging, shipping,
shipping, yeah.
everything else in there. So it's even narrower. So they probably need to sell more like 10 million to actually turn a profit on.
Which, I mean, Spider-Man did, but at the end of the day, you're like, we want it to do more, That's why I think the indie developers, when they say like, hey, I worked in my basement, for 2 years developing this or whatever, and it came out and it sold a million copies, you're like, you just hit the lotto, where you're like, wow, So yeah. Well, Avin, thanks for doing this again. I think,
So it's going to be.
we'll probably have to do What's Up Nintendo because, and Nintendo's in a unique place, which I'll talk about next time we do this, but they're in a place where they're just like, woo, they're literally wahooing through. I think they're lapping. They're like, woo, like just like not even caring. So thanks for doing this, Avin. And, we might have to do this with like Steam or something too. Cause like there's the Epic Game Store and Steam and like, people hate the Epic Game Store and
versus
Valve.
Epic.
Yeah. And, Epic took on Apple, and now there's a Nintendo emulator that you can download on the Apple store, so you can emulate Nintendo games, and it's illegal because some legal thing went through with like emulators. As long as you have the ROM, as long as you own the ROM, you can emulate stuff, because to emulate ROMs isn't illegal. It's illegal to sell ROMs. That's why Nintendo went after a company recently, because they were making you purchase ROMs off their website of old Nintendo games, and Nintendo sued them for like $2 million or $10 million. It was an absorbent amount of money, but it was a thing to shut them down. And everybody's like, well, you shouldn't do that. They're just providing ROMs. But they had a Patreon, so they were charging people a Patreon fee to give them ROMs, and Nintendo's like, hang on a second. Those are ours.
You're turning a profit
Yeah,
on
yeah.
our data.
because they don't go after websites that are like, hey, just I got this thing, just download it. Because they're like, well, they're not charging. We don't like it, but you're not charging our stuff. But the moment you lock it behind a Patreon, they're like, excuse me, call the lawyers, and the lawyers just go after them. So, but yeah, we'll probably do it with like Steam or something like that in a couple weeks. I don't know. I'm thinking about that. Like, I do kind of want to talk about the Epic Game Store because I liked it at first, but it kind of seems like nothing's changed with it in years. And it just seems to be this stagnant. They're like, hey, we just added friends lists. You're like, what? What? Like, or, 2 years ago, they're like, the store's been out for 2 years, but why don't we add trophies? And you're like, what? You don't even, I can't even, I can gift a game now. Like, what is happening
you
over
finally caught up. Good job.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Anyway. Well, thanks, Avin. When we do this, I'll definitely have you on again.